My first guest, I consider a good friend. He's been with us several times in the past few months, and a most original and creative talent in our business. Would you welcome Mr. Orson Welles? Welcome back. I'm going to tell you something. I thought about it upstairs tonight. The very first time you were booked on this show, I was really kind of scared. I don't know whether you know that or not. I didn't tell you that because I've always been in somewhat awe of you, and I did not know you at the time.
But we'd been on the same stage together, and no harm had come to you.
That is true. That is no harm. And that was. And then you were on that show the first night, and everything just worked great, and now it's so great to have you here all the time.
Well, I was much more scared than you were, believe me.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
No,
sure.
That I won't buy at all.
Well, of course. Of course, anybody's scared to get out in front of the public. I think it's only the people who haven't done it very long aren't scared. Just now, for instance, they said I was waiting behind the multicolored curtain, and one of the fellows back there says, "Well, this must be like old hat to you." You know, because I've been about 4 times on the show, and old hat. I was, it was just like an opening night. Nervous.
I guess performers, no matter how much professional they are, and sometimes the more professional, the more uptight they get. I remember reading, and I found it hard to believe that Helen Hayes at one time, when radio, could not stand at a microphone and read a script.
Not true.
Is that not true?
She did 6, it was under contract.
Is there somebody else I'm thinking of?
6 plays a year from me when I had an hour radio show, and she was super professional. She knew radio very well.
Then I have the wrong lady, but someone of that
wrong
stature,
lady, somebody like that,
absolutely was petrified to stand there with just the sheets of paper. And
yeah, a lot of people can't read. You know, reading on radio is another talent.
It is.
Some people can ad-lib and some people can't, and some people can read a script and make it sound like they're making it up, and other people take a long time. Larry Olivier, for example, is a terrible radio actor.
But on stage, then?
Well, he needs his 3 or 4 days. His first readings are very mysterious. You think, that's Sir Lawrence, is it, you know?
That's unusual.
Yes, you see. And I had him on the radio several times. And the first time, we had an old radio actor called Ray Collins who came up to him, said, "Didn't I see you on Big Sister?" That was a soap opera, you know? And he came up to me later, Collins, and says, "This poor fellow doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe we better help him out a little."
Laurence Olivier.
Yes, that's right. Because he was nervous about reading the words off the page, which is a special thing.
I drive home now after the show, and one of the stations out here has been playing a lot of the old radio broadcasts. Suspense and a lot of the original comedy shows and drama shows, the Lux Radio Theater. And you realize what a wonderful medium radio really was when it was done well.
Dramatically, it was, I don't think there's any medium better, because it, first of all, it did what television doesn't do. It made people listen and pay attention, because as we are talking, the great majority of our public may well be wandering about the room or up to something else. But on radio, they couldn't follow it at all unless they were really following it.
That's true, and the imagination really had to take over. And that's why a lot of things on television they could never do as well. For example, I don't think on a television show they could do a really horror or mystery type of thing as well.
No, because your own imagination would do it.
Because they can't create those special effects that's in the mind all the time when you hear it.
Oh, yes.
Those were great days.
I had intended to bring a little magical illusion with me, and I put it in the wrong jacket.
No magic tonight?
So no magic tonight, and I also told myself that I would do what Mrs. Temple used to tell Shirley before every take, and I find I'm not doing it. Do you know what she used to say?
No.
This is really true. Just as they put that slate on, you know, take number 4, whatever it is, Littlest Rebel. She'd say, "Sparkle, Shirley." Sparkle, Shirley. So that's what I told myself behind the curtain. Sparkle, Orson.
Smile now. Let's see some of that. That's funny. I got a couple other things in mind I want to ask you that I wasn't going to get to. But it might be fun for the next time you come. I want to.
Am I leaving?
No. No, you're no. Well, you're sparkling. I want you to get some of those scripts you have, and bring them if you have them, and let's show the people how difficult or how unusual it is to read a dramatic thing. And
we can do a suspense show here.
And set it up, and we'll get the sound effects and actually recreate.
But do it seriously.
Do it straight.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Right. And it'll be very funny.
I will. No, it'll be serious. We'll be right back. More sparkling in just a moment. We're back. Orson and I. Orson just suggested during the break, the thing would be most apropos would be the Shadow, which you did on radio.
Yeah.
The Shadow. Remember that
One of the
series? Now, in those days, it was interesting. The shows were live on radio, most of them. Some of them were transcribed.
No, network shows had to be live by law.
Right.
The only transcribed shows were syndicated shows and local ones.
And you would play like maybe 5, 6, or 7 different shows, like in New York City, playing different characters on each one, right?
Yes, and I found out that you can hire an ambulance in New York without being sick.
I didn't know that.
So I used to go from CBS to NBC and back again in an ambulance so I could get through the traffic in order to get from one soap opera to another, you know? And I wouldn't know what I was going to play. They'd hold an elevator open for me. I'd come in. They'd say, Studio 3. I'd go into Studio 3. They'd hand me a piece of paper. I'd say, what is it? And they'd say, 70-year-old Chinaman. And we're on the air. I didn't know how it turned out, what happened, anything. I was a 70-year-old Chinaman.
Just go right
we were talking about first readings. That's radio reading. And, of course, radio actors like myself, that first reading is the best one. We haven't got anything better after that.
You just go do it. What would happen when you do a fluff? Now, there had to be times when the lines would...
Oh, yes. We had, I remember one morning, we used to do a show in my poorest days in radio when I had only one show to live on. Joe Cotton and I were both living on $18.50 a week, which was the fee for this. It was on what's called sustaining, and it was the School of the Air.
The School of the Air.
The School of the Air. And one morning it was about the Olympic Games in Greece. And the lady authoress, an unmarried woman in her late 60s, was sitting in this tiny studio with an organ and the rest of little cast of 6, and we picked up the script, pretty badly hungover, I may say, and went on the air live with dialogue that went like this. Ah, Pythias, you have the biggest lance in all Athens. Can you throw it over your shoulder? Let me see your discus, you know. And all perfectly clean, unbleepable stuff, but we were only about 6 minutes into it when they had to just play organ music. We were all on the floor because the spinster lady didn't know why. We thought it was all so dirty. And when we finally came to a line where I had to say, barrels and barrels of pith.
Organ music up and out.
Organ music, and I never worked for School of the Air again, nor did Joe Cotton. We starved for a month.
Off the School of the Air.
We were written out.
They did wonderful things in those days, and not all the stories are apocryphal. They're true.
The craziest are true.
They undressed Bill Stern once. You know that story?
Yes, I was there.
Bill Stern was one of the great sportscasters of all times, and he was at NBC, I think, at the time. And somebody went out to a studio tour, and while he's on the mic, they removed his trousers.
Oh, yes.
Now, there's nothing he can do. He is on the air.
That was Frank Reddick.
They're pulling his trousers down, and he's saying, in the meantime, the score in the Browns. Right. They pulled his trousers off. Now they go out into the hall, and there's a studio tour, and say, by the way, you better drop by 8H. Stern's doing the sports. And all these people walked by the window where he was sitting there in his shorts doing his thing. Wonderful things like that. Setting the script on fire was an old device, wasn't it?
Yes, and then we used to do a lot of shows in front of an audience, all dressed up in evening clothes. I never knew quite why.
Give it a dramatic flair,
you know, the Philip Morris hour and things like that. And we had a very dramatic director called Charles Martin, who used to give very dramatic cues, and he was, you know, the Toscanini of the radio directors. So the audience would be aware he's there. And he'd see him in his dinner jacket doing all of this. And I used to repeatedly pretend to drop my script and lose my pages before it came to my time in order to spoil his act. You see, because I'd drop all the pages, and we'd all be picking them up saying, oh, that isn't it, must be this, and so on. Then while he was looking away, I'd get the real script out of my pocket, you see.
That could be heart attack time.
Yeah, heart attack time. But he gave us a rough time during rehearsal, so we felt he had it coming to us. But it was very funny. Sponsors in those days. Over and over again, radio actors would be barred forever, not allowed ever again to work on a show because it was a Camel show and they opened up a package of Chesterfields or something.
That's how seriously they took it at that time.
Just the package in your hand, blackballed forever. In radio, a medium where nobody could see anything.
I remember once when I was in radio in the Midwest, a favorite device there was because we didn't have a news editing staff or anything. We would just, pull it off the teletype, and the AP or UP would come in on the yellow sheets of paper, and the radio announcer, Ed knows this, would tear it off, and you go into the news, and you read what the stories are. They would type in, they would get a sheet, and in the middle of the news, they would type in some horrendous, obscene story that you didn't know the end of it until you were about halfway through, and then, of course, your eyes would drop down, and you'd say, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa today, Mr. William Scranton went into the barn, and all of a sudden you'd see what's coming. And you'd say, we'll be back to that story in a moment, but first, terrible things like that. Yes. But you would be halfway through the story before you realized you'd been had.
We had an announcer. For years, I had a show for Campbell Soup, which was called the Campbell Playhouse, and we had an announcer called Chappell.
Ernest Chappell.
Ernest Chappell had a very earnest and dramatic voice, and he used to rehearse his commercials very seriously, and there was a running line for a year, which was, as sure as you like chicken, you like Campbell's chicken soup. Now, I had been sent by somebody
a
copy of the Poulterer's Gazette, in which Campbell Soup was advertising for old roosters. Now, as a matter of fact, roosters make the best soup, and very old chickens, but we didn't know that. We thought it was funny. So I had my cast every week in dress rehearsal. While Chappell was saying, you like Campbell's chicken soup, we were saying rooster soup right along with him. And he would say, now, fellows, I'm going to go on the air and I'm going to say rooster. He did.
He did. That's what's called is the pre-psyching somebody out until you get them absolutely mad. Now, you know the famous story. This is fun tonight. This is just fun and reminiscing. You know the famous story that George Burns did to Jacques Benny? It had to do with Jeanette MacDonald, did it not, Freddie?
I don't know it.
It's a wonderful story, and it shows you how you can psych somebody out. Apparently, Jeanette MacDonald and her husband threw lovely parties, but inevitably, before the evening was over, somebody would ask Jeanette MacDonald to sing, which she would.
And
if they didn't,
she had somebody hired who would.
Because she wanted to sing. So George used to say to Jack Benny, 3 days before the party, he'd say, Jack, when Jeanette MacDonald gets up to sing at the party, don't laugh. It would be very embarrassing. He'd call him the next day. Jack, somebody's going to ask Jeanette to sing. I would be very embarrassed if you laughed. Wow, Sure enough, so they're at the party and somebody says, Jeanette, would you sing a song? And Jack goes right out. It was all over. He was physically unable not to explode with laughter.
I know that's true, as it sounds like George for one thing.
He was.
And Jack also was, you could get him quicker than anybody who ever lived.
Was a great patsy for George.
Oh, he was one of the only great comedians who really enjoyed other comedians.
Right, he did.
You do too, but they're so rare, the people, the really good comedians because that false laugh, if you've ever watched them.
Oh, trying to break up.
Yes, no, that's right. Hold on a second.
I like your
I used that in Grossingers in 1939.
I like your Ernest Chappell reading of the chicken soup. What is that again?
As sure as you like chicken, you like Campbell's chickens, rooster.
Oh, I got another story. I got another one come to mind.
Great.
Oh, this is more fun. Ed Hurley, one night, I've told a story on the air before. Ed Hurley, who does the Kraft cheese commercials and has for years of the Kraft Playhouse, had the actor Seshua Hayakawa, and they had fit in. He's in the booth.
You're in trouble now.
No, he's absolutely. And, of course, Ed Hurley has this wonderful rhythm in his voice, and he's just finished How to Make This Wonderful Cheese and send for the booklet and 50 ways to prepare Kraft cheese. And he's in the booth sitting like this, and it's the end of the credits are coming over the crawl. And Ed Hurley, he says, next week we have the bridges of so-and-so and so-and-so starring that magnificent actor, Sesha Haikawaka. And you heard this, he said, I mean, of course, Sesha Haikuiwa. And now you hear just a little bit of it in the booth. And Ed now comes on to try to really bail himself out. And he says, you'll have to, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, but I've always had a little problem with that name. But, of course, I'm talking about Sesha Haikawaka. He did it 3 times in a row, and I fall out of the chair. I am absolutely... By then it was all. He couldn't get it if Hayakawa was there, he couldn't have it.
I had a show called The Cornstarch. I was the voice of Cornstarch.
Oh, you're putting me on now.
I kid you not, and it was one of my first really good jobs because it was 5 days a week, $75 a time. All I had to come in was read a poem while the singing strings of somebody or other played, and I'd read this thing. And I had to write a little thing about the poem before I would read it. It was a 15-minute spot for the housewife at noon. And I had been up about 3 nights without being to sleep for overwork, as you may imagine. And came in one day, and it was a poem they picked for me by Robert Browning, and I couldn't understand what it was about. And I didn't know what to say about it. And I remembered a line from a play that I'd been in, The Barretts of Wimpole Street with Cornell, when she says to Browning, who was a character in the play, what does this poem mean? And he says... kind of a funny line that he really said in life. When this was written, only God and Robert Browning know what it meant. Now only God does. So I thought, I'll say this. The ladies will enjoy it. It's on singing strings. And all the sponsors, and the smaller a show was, the more sponsors would be in a
of course,
in a room, you know, were gathered. And I said, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This poem puts me in mind of what the author said originally, that when this was written, only Brob and Grobbit breeding. When Grot was written, only Grobbit breeding. Music continued. When Grob and Gribbit... When God was written, only Brob and Vit and Gritting. And then I saw all of these faces, purple and black, staring at me. And I just put down the script, walked out of the studio, and never saw them again.
Never saw... Oh, that's wonderful.
No way.
So once you're into it, there is no way to recover except leave and come another day. Hey, I thank you. I understand you have to leave early.
I have to leave early, and I have to say, you made a remark there that there were 2 people by the name of Orson Welles.
That's true.
And, I mean, by the name of Orson. And, of course, neither of those statements is true.
Who's another person named Orson?
You see, there is nobody named Orson. It's like saying, you know, they make champagne in Argentina. Figure that one out.
Robert Browning, Dolman.
Yes. No, there is a deep message in that, because... the very talented fellow, and I wish you weren't, who's following me with this name,
Orson Bean,
you know, was really born with a very straight name. His name is actually Wilmot Entwistle.
I don't buy that at all.
Well, it's a name like that. Ask it.
Wilmot Entwistle?
It's a name like that. Ask. What happened was, in those days, Bob, you know, they used to use my name on radio just to make people laugh. They used to think Orson was that funny. And maybe it still is. And this fellow, Wilmot...
Wilmot Entwistle?
Yes, Entwistle or Bracegirdle, whatever it may be. Deciding at the beginning of his career that since he didn't know any good material, he'd better come out with a funny name.
Took up Orson.
Invented Orson Bean.
Do you know anybody else besides you and Orson Bean named Orson?
His name isn't Orson.
Well, I mean... Well, professionally it is, but do you know anybody else?
No. No, and there better not be.
Thanks for coming.